challenge problem I will discuss only in the office hours, not in the class. We have other important stuff to discuss. So now today we will look at couple of I will introduce you to pointers and arrays, and in the next class we will continue this thread and solve some substantial problem. But the concepts that you learn in today's class will be very important. We will start with the first problem. The first problem is like there are two variables, variable A, and so let's say variable A contains value 10 and variable B contains value 20. We would like to write a snippet of code so that no, this gets transformed. This is the state of the program, and the state of the program gets transformed to this. That is A is equal to 20 and B is equal to 10. So how do we do it? Okay, how do we, this is what is called as a swap function. We want to swap the contents of variables A and B. So how do you do it? So if you forget about programming, if I give you two glass tumblers, so this is glass A and this is glass B, and so glass A contains milk and glass B contains some kind of juice. So how can we no, exchange the contents of tumblers A and B? Yeah, so as Vitish said, we use an empty tumbler. So what we do, we take a glass A and transfer the contents of glass A into an empty tumbler T. So this is step one. So after step one, what happens is the contents of the tumbler A, tumbler T, it contains milk, and tumbler A is now empty. This is step one. And what is step two? The step two is you transfer contents of tumbler B to tumbler A. Let me use so this is step two, transfer the contents of tumbler B to tumbler A. So after you do that, what do you get? So so now tumbler A contains the juice. And what is step three? Step three is you transfer the contents of this to this. And then after that, what happens? This is what. So you are with me here, right? So do you understand this? You're all with me. I hope you understood this idea. And so here, this transferring step A is equivalent to saying T is equal to A. So the contents of variable A, you assign it to a temporary variable. And then step two is this. And then what we do is we say A is equal to B. The contents of B, we transfer it into A. And what is the step three? Step three is we say B is equal to T. So if you write the code linearly, this is what happens. The steps to transfer the contents of, to swap the contents of three variables is this. This is. Are you all with me here? You understood the whole example, right? So let's try to program for the same and see how it goes. And actually, maybe in this case, yeah. So this is the code. So swap.c So there are some questions in the chat box. I will come to the chat box in a moment. So here, if you check the code, so here on lines, we are reading the two variables A and B. We are printing the contents of these two variables A and B on line number 9. And the code on line number 11 to line number 13, we are swapping the contents of the variables A and B. And finally, we are printing the contents of the variables A and B on line number 15. Let's compile this code. Okay, 10, 20, you can see that the contents of these two variables got swapped. Are you happy with this program? Does this make sense? So there is a third approach. There is another approach which Anirudh is suggesting. I will, so which is A is equal to A plus B, B is equal to A minus B. I don't know whether it works or not. So yeah, so let's, this is not, and then A is equal to A minus B. Yeah. So I will not discuss this, but I want you guys to figure out whether this works or not. It works, sir? Yeah. So essentially what happens is you can see that on line number here, this is actually equal to, if you kind of think the original value of A as A naught, the original value of, let's see, this is the notation. Let's use a different notation for those of you who are trying to understand. So we can try to rewrite this code in this form. So A1 is equal to A naught plus B naught. A naught and B naught are the initial values of the variables A and B. So here, so B1 is equal to A1 minus B naught, and then you know that so A2 is equal to A1 minus B1. So what happens here? So what is the value of A1? So A1 is equal to A naught plus B naught. Are you with me here? So A1 is equal to A naught plus B naught. So B1 is equal to A1. So B1 is equal to A1. And yeah, so here what we get is B1 is equal to A1. And here A2 is equal to A1. A1 is A naught plus B naught minus, what is B1? Minus A1. B1 is minus. Does this make sense? B1 would be equal to A0, no? Oh, here. Ah, okay, that's the reason. Okay, so now it will work. Okay. Yeah, so finally A2 becomes equal to B naught. Anyway, you can check, but there is a problem in this approach. Okay, so there is a problem. So those of you who didn't quite get it, you can kind of leave it aside. It's not important. But there is one problem in this approach. That problem is, so what is it? Does anyone see problem in this approach? Overflow, yeah. So there can be overflows and are possible. So how do we fix this problem? How do we fix the overflow problem? You can use what is called as an exclusive OR operation instead of this to take care of that overflow, right? So I just want to take a step back and see that for everyone in the class, so there is an approach here that you are all seeing, that is from line number 11 to line number 13. I want all of you to understand this particular approach. Are you all with me? Is there anyone who didn't get this thing? Ignore the other approaches where we don't use a third variable, but are you all with me on line number 11 to line 13? This is the baseline approach. If anyone has problem with it, you can ask me, but there are other approaches like what is being suggested and where we try to follow that line of thinking on how to do swap without using a third variable. If you don't get it for the time being, ignore it. No problem at all. Okay, so don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. We can figure it out later. So this is what I would like you to understand. So now the next idea is this, okay? Usually when we don't use swap, just like that in the middle of a program, swap becomes a logic in a bigger program. So we would like to put swap as a separate function in our code. So we would like to write a swap function. This is our goal. So write a swap function. What are the parameters to the swap function? The swap function doesn't return anything. Those of you who are looking for a revision from functions, I want you to understand. We would like to write a swap function, and this swap function doesn't return any values. It doesn't return any values. But it takes two integers. A and B. So let's call, for the sake of, every time when I use the same parameter names, you kind of get confused. Let's use two parameters, M and N. So then it takes two integers, and the type of the values the swap receives is they are integers. And swap wants to swap the contents of these two variables. Okay, so M, N, N, M. This is what swap does. Yeah, so T not declared. Otherwise, I didn't get your question. And then what we do is here we call the swap function. Swap A, comma B. Did we talk about scope of variables? What is the scope of the variables A and B? No, we cannot write int M, comma N otherwise. Maybe it's possible, I don't know. You just check. The scope of the variables A and B is main. You cannot access the variables A and B beyond the function main. And what is the scope of the variables T, M, and N in the swap function? It is within swap. We cannot, these variables are not visible outside swap. So now let's try to compile this code. And do you think this function will work? Do you think this will work? So let's compile this program and see what happens. GCC swap. Oh, what happened? Where is it stored? Swap func.c. Oh, okay. So let's compile this program and see what happens. 10, 20. What will be the output? This is a program. What will be the output? $10.20. So it will still be $10.20. It's not going to change. So Anjali thinks it is 2010. Let's see why it is not. So Shantanu, in C, there is no possibility for call by reference mechanism. So Rahul got it right. M and N are copies of A and B. So in order to see what is going on, so let's try to debug this code. Let's try not debug, let's try to trace this code, what is happening. GCC minus G, swap func. So here I will put a breakpoint here. So toggle breakpoint and then start debugging. Don't, so come on guys, hold on the discussion in the chat. You are confusing. So you understood bit of C++, you understood this bit of C, and you are mixing up things. So other students who are seeing it, they'll also get confused. Hold on to the discussion in the chat. So we are debugging this program. We are on line number 16 and scanf is prompting for input. Are you with me here? I want everyone, all 96 students in the class to be with me, that we are running this program in the debug mode. On line number 16, we are on line number 16. And so we are entering the input 10, 20. So what happens is that, so now there is a breakpoint on line number 20. So the program halted execution on line number 20. And if you check the call stack contains the activation record associated with the function main. And it has two local variables, A and B. And the value of the local variable A is 10 and the value of the local variable B is 20. Again, the next checkpoint, are you all with me here? I hope you're all with me here till there. So now what we do is we step through the code of swap. Let's go step into the swap code. So now when we enter swap, please pay attention. If you pay attention to the call stack, the call stack contains the activation record of swap on the top and below it the activation record for main. So if you go and look at main has local variables A and B and their values are 10 and 20. Swap has local variables 0, 10, T, M and N. But M and N are special local variables, that is they are arguments to the function swap. Because of that, they are initialized to the values with which the swap function is called. Swap function is called with the values 10 and 20 for the variables M and N. Because of that, by the time we entered swap, M is holding the value 10 and N is holding the value 20. And there is absolutely no relationship between the swap function and the main function. Sorry, the variables A and B, the variables A and B in the main and the variables M and N in swap, there is no any relationship at all. There is no relationship at all there. It is like, like when you are running relay, once you pass the baton, so that's it. So the story is closed there. Okay, you pass the baton and the next person in the relay, they will hold the baton and run. So M is holding the value 10 and N is holding the value 20. The memory allocated for the variable M is different from the memory allocated to the variable A, so on and so forth. All these things are there. So now you can see as we step through the code, T is equal to, as you step to these three instructions, you can see that the contents of variables M and N, they are swapped. But if you go and check the main, the values of the variables A and B, they are still 10 and 20. So they are not going to change because whatever the changes that we are making, they are locally to the variables M and N. So because of that, when we come out of main and of swap, and when we print the values of variables A and B is still 10 and 20. Does it make sense? Are you with me here? So this particular parameter passing mechanism, this is what is called as a, we discussed it in the previous class. This is what is called as a call by value parameter passing mechanism. Because here we are passing the current value of A, which is 10, and the current value of B, which is 20, into the parameters M and N for the swap function. That's what we are doing. And then there is no entanglement between the variables A and B with the variables M and with the arguments or the parameters M and N for the swap function. But then we want to write a swap function which actually can swap the contents of A and B. How do we go about doing it? So that's the next challenge. We will take it up. So in order to do this, so we have to understand what are called as pointers. So like let's consider a memory location. Let's consider a variable A. So we have a variable A. Let's say the address of the variable A is 100 and the contents of the variable is 10. When we say the address of the variable A is 100, then that means in the memory, the variable A is allocated memory at a location starting whose address starts with 100. Are you with me here? Till this point, are you with me? So let's see. We will take one thing at a time. Int A is equal to %d. I'm using this what is called as a %p modifier, format specifier, which prints the address in hexadecimal form. There is nothing here. So variable, there is every variable is allocated memory in, that is where, and so that, and every variable has an address. So here we are declaring variable A on line number 5. We are printing the contents of variable A and we are printing the address of the variable A. How do you know the address of, how do we get the address of a variable? By using the ampersand operator, which gives the address of the variable. So now let's compile this program and see what happens. So gcc etr.c. Let's clear the terminal. Okay, so .a.out. So now you can see the contents of variable A is 10. The address of the variable A is, that whatever that 0x7ff blah. Are you with me here? So let me write the address of the variable. The address of the variable A is this 0x7ff C0 FE 4F BC4. This is the address. Are you with me here so far? Remember, our memory is a linear array of bytes. Every byte has an address. 0th byte, 1st byte, 2nd byte, 3rd byte, 4th byte, so on and so forth. So now let's go back to the program. So now we introduce a new data type called as pointer data type. let me use a different int star ptr a. So ptr a is a variable. Its data type is int star. That is, ptr a holds values. And what is the type of the value? That value is an address to an object or a variable which is of type integer. Which is of type integer. So let's say if you want to, and to start with, since ptra is also a, since ptra, it is also a variable, it is also allocated memory somewhere, right? It is also allocated memory somewhere. So if you see the address of ptra, address of ptra is equal to %p. So ptra is a variable, so it is also allocated memory somewhere, so it has its own address. So let's print the address of that variable. So gcc, sorry. So can you see the address of the variable ptra here? So ptra, we don't know the contents of the variable ptra. Let me use a bigger, so this is ptra. We don't know the contents of the variable. No, we don't know the contents of the, it could be containing any garbage value. But what is the address of the variable ptra? It is 0x7ff E4E3EC B60. So int star is a data type. Just like a holds a value, and the type of the value which a holds is integer. Int star, it is a value, and what is the type of that value? Like ptra is a variable, it holds a value, its value is called as int star. And what int star means is it's an address to a variable which is of type integer. It's an address to a variable, it's the address of a variable which is of type integer. So now let's see, let's keep going. Otherwise, maybe you'll understand it, what's going on in a moment. Okay, so ptra, let's try to print ptra, contents of ptra. So now you can see ptra, it is, for the time being, it contains some garbage value. It doesn't have any meaning. So in order to make it more meaningful, so let's try to assign here ptra is equal to address of a. No, it is not %d, so it should be %p only. Are you with me here? Are you seeing, do you see what ptra is equal to here? What does ptra contain? What does ptra contain? Address of an integer variable. What does ptra contain? It contains the address of the variable a. Yes or no here? On line number 10, that's what we are doing, right? On line number 10, we are storing the address of variable a, and variable a is an integer. So because of that, we declare the type of the variable ptra as int pointer, as a pointer to a variable of type integer. As a pointer to a int star means it's a pointer to a variable of type integer. So a is a integer. So the address of a is what we are storing in ptr. So because of that, you can see this and this are the same. Yes or no? These two are in the same. This is address of a, and that's got copied into ptra variable. Are you all with me here? So if you go look at the contents of the variable ptra, it contains this 0x7ff C0 FE 4F BC4. Okay. I want to recap all these ideas once. The first idea is this. When we refer A, what do we get? When we do printf A, what do we get? When we do printf A, what do we get when we do printf A? Whatever the value stored in A, that is 10. Good answer. What is the second observation? This is the first observation. The second observation is you do printf something, whatever address of A. This is the second. What do we get when we do printf address of A? The memory address at which variable A is stored. Yes or no? Address of A. Great. Number 3, the third observation is printf ptra. What do we get? Printf ptra. When we do printf ptra, the contents of ptra will be printed. But what happens is in the program that we have written, we said ptra is equal to address of A. So because of that, when we print ptra, what gets printed? The address of A gets printed. This is the third observation. This is the third observation, that when we do printf ptra, the address of A gets printed. That is because of this specific reason that we initialized ptra is equal to address of A. Right? And then what is the fourth observation? The fourth observation is when we do printf something, address of ptra, what do we get? It gives the address at which where ptra is stored. Are you all with me here? Great. So now I will introduce you to a new idea here. So let me put it as here as 5, and I will maybe use a different color. So when we do printf star ptra, what happens when we do printf star ptra? This star is what is called as a dereferencing, pointer dereferencing operator. Pointer dereferencing operator. The star ptra is what is called as a pointer dereferencing operator. So what happens is when we apply star to ptra, we look at the address that is present in ptra. It turns out to be the address of the variable A, and the contents of that particular location will be printed. Are you with me? So because of that, what will be printed? Because of statement 5, 10 will be printed, because when we apply star operator, so this is what happens. When we apply star operator, the address that is present here is taken. We used its address to do a pointer jump. We jump to this location, and the contents of this location will be printed. It's like treasure hunt, right? So you go to a place, it gives a hint, and you go to the next place. So applying star is equal to, you go to the address that is present in ptra variable, and from there you go to that address, and from there you print the value. Star is not the pointer, man. So I didn't understand. Can you just follow the line of thinking that do you see what I'm trying to say here, what is there on line 1? There is a variable, and every variable has contents and it has address. So A has contents and A has address. PTRA has content and PTRA has address. And what is the content of PTRA? It is the address of A. So now when we apply a dereferencing operator on PTRA, we use the value or the address that is present in the PTRA variable, and we go to that particular address and we'll examine the contents of that address, and that's what will be referenced. PTRA is a pointer variable. And since this address, it is pointing to an integer object. Since this address is pointing to an integer object, we declare the type of this variable as int star. That is the story. We declare the type of the PTRA variable as int star because PTRA is holding the address of an integer variable. Instead, if it is contains the address of a floating point variable, we use float star. Are you all with me here till this point? Are you all with me? So there is, I'm just cleaning off all this stuff. Yeah, maybe let me do one thing. Clear all my drawings. So finally we will say printf a is equal to %d star ptr a is equal to %d a star ptr. Okay, this is what we have. You can see that on the third line, A is equal to 10, star PTR A is equal to 10. So here, the important thing is, what we call as A and star PTR A. So let me do a thing. Mathematically speaking, if PTRA is equal to address of A implies A and star PTRA or aliases of each other. Aliases means they refer to the same object. They refer to the same object, same entity. Are you good so far? Does this all make sense to you? Doing all right? Okay. So now if this is the case, if you're all doing all right, then let's get going. And we would like to take this, we would like to modify the swap function. So this is not looking good. So what we do is we modify the swap function. So this is what we do. So we do int star. Please don't write code, Harshavardhan. There is a particular line of thinking I'm taking the whole class to. We are not looking for answers. We are looking for learning the concepts. Srijan, you can ask the question in the chat box. Yeah, good question. It is not coincidence, Srijan. Srijan has a very good question. So the address of A and PTRA are very similar. Is it a coincidence? The reason why, can someone tell why it looks similar before I answer? Since they are declared side by side. Okay, stored in the same core. No, what core? Basically almost at the same time. So where will be the memory for the variables a and ptra allocated? Guys, your answers are driving me nuts. Physical memory. Tell me where memory for the variables a and ptra are allocated. The next level of answer is no, they are, because both of them are allocated memory on the computer, so their address is the same. So everything is allocated memory in the RAM only. Where is heap coming, Harshvardhan? You should work hard, guys. So much you are telling again and again. There is a call stack for the program, and in the call stack, no, associated when the function main gets activated, there is what is called as an activation record for the function main on the call stack. This is call stack or program stack. On the program stack, the memory for the local variables is allocated. This is for variable A, and this is for the next variable that is present in the program. This is ptra. So since they are allocated pretty much next to each other, their addresses are close to each other. Does it make sense? Yes or no? So clear. Okay, let's go back. Now let's try to run this program and see if it works, and then we'll trace this code. So gcc pointer.c. This we have to use. So now you can see that the swap function is working, right? So what happens is, let's now try to trace this program and see what is happening here. So start debugging. So now, again, I want you to, all of you to be with me. Did I? Yeah. So now we are on line 16 waiting for the program is waiting for input. So I enter 10 and 20. I think I should put a breakpoint here. Toggle breakpoint. Run. Restart debugging. For some reason, the breakpoint is not working. So I'll just, okay. Did I compile this program? Okay. Great. Toggle breakpoint. I think it should work now. So now the program is asking for input. So let's enter 1020. So now we are, where are we? So we are on line number, 20. And if you look at the call stack, I want you to pay attention, guys, because you are not getting it. So call stack, program stack are all the same. So you can see, on the, what is present on the call stack? Tell me what is present on the call stack. Main is present on the call stack. Huh? The activation record for main is present on the call stack. It's a small thing. In order to carry out the execution of main, there is a small chunk of memory that will be allocated on the stack. That is what called as activation record associated with main. And if you see in the activation record associated with main, it has the memory for the two local variables A and B are allocated. The memory for the local variables A and B are allocated. And A contains 10 and B contains 20. And now we are calling swap. And what are the parameters that we are passing to this function swap? What parameters are we passing to function swap? We are passing parameters to the function swap. We are calling it the addresses of the variables A and B. So now let's step into the code for swap. Now we are in swap. Awesome. Can you take a look at the call stack? What does the top of the call stack contain now? What does the top of the call stack contain? The activation record for the swap function. Thank you, Pranjal. And what does the activation record for the swap function contains? It contains the memory for the local variable t, m, and n. M and n also are local variables. The only difference is the variables m and n are initialized to a value. And the value they are initialized to depends on how the swap function is called. Right now, the swap function is called with the address of the variables A and B respectively. So if you see, M contains the address of variable A and N contains the address of variable B. And you can see the address of variable A and address of variable B, they just differ in 4 bytes because the size of an integer is 4 bytes. Does it make sense? Is it all making sense to you? That the address of variable A is this, the address of variable B is 34, the address of variable A is 30, and they differ by only 4 bytes because the size of an integer is 4 bytes. Awesome. So now when we apply star m, what will be star m? Now if you go look here, so main is contains still A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20. And what is star m? Star m is 10. What is star n? Star n means, so this address that is present in n, you go to that address and access that. So you can see star n is equal to 20 and star m is equal to 10. Cool, right? Everything is good, na? See, if you learn to use VS Code, if you learn to use GDB, then how things work, I want you to learn to figure out things by yourself. Okay, so this is why we are going through this, taking this path. So now you can see after line 7 gets executed, will the variable A, will star m change after line? Now, can you tell me what are the aliases here? Can you tell me the aliases that we have here? So star m, it's an alias of variable A, and star n, it's an alias of variable B. Because m contains the address of A, so why? Because m is equal to address of A and n is equal to address of B. Together, these two things imply this, that star m is an alias of A and star n is an alias of B because of this reason. I hope you're all with me again here. This is important idea. So now t is equal to star m. So 10 gets copied into variable t. So you can see that here t now contains 10. And now star m is equal to star n. So star m is equal to 20. So since star m is an alias of A, if you go and look at main, and you can see that the value of variable A got changed to 20. Are you all with me here? Yes or no? If you understand this idea, you are cool guys. You are doing fantastic. Now let's go back here. And then you do the next thing. So star n is equal to t, and since star n and b are aliases of each other, if you go and see, b is equal to 10. Great. So now we come out of swap function. The activation record associated with swap got popped out. And now if you print, so you will get A is equal to 20, B is equal to 10. Yes, exactly, Sriharsha. So because star m and A are aliases of each other. No, once we are out of swap, there is nothing like star m or star n. No? Only when we are in n, then only they have. The address of A and B don't change. The address of A and B always remains the same. The variable addresses of variables A and B, they never change. Only their contents change. The address of a variable, it's not going to change once the program starts executing. No, it doesn't change. So you all understood this example, how this whole thing works, how the swap function works, how we made swap work because of by using pointers. I hope you are with me on this example. If you're all doing all right, shall we move on? Shall we move to arrays, and I'll introduce you arrays a little bit. I want you to revisit this video lecture after the class is over and read the textbook, read Essential C, and get your ideas solid. Make your ideas concrete. Great. So I will take the class till 1:15. Is it okay? Otherwise, you got it wrong at the end. The addresses of are not swapped. 1:15, guys. Why will I take till 1:50? 10 more minutes or maybe 5 more minutes. So maybe otherwise, let's do one thing. I will not take up arrays. I'll just leave it as it is. Maybe we can take it up in the next class. If there are any doubts on the pointers, I will clarify. That's better maybe. You tell Vitish, if PTR A is equal to A, it will be a bug actually because A contains some value. And whatever the value that you are assigning to PTR A, let's say A contains 10. So the question of Adharva of Vitish is PTR A is equal to A, and then you try to use star PTR A. With high probability, you'll get some segmentation fault because what happens is, let's say this is your memory, and A initially contains this is variable A, and it contains 10, and this is PTR A, and you copy the contents of A to this, so you get 10. And when you do star PTRA, what happens when we do star PTRA? Which memory location will be accessed? When we do star PTRA, which memory location will be accessed? The 10th location. But then the 10th location in your memory, it may or may not be accessible because some pages in your memory, they are read-only. So you don't know what is going to happen. So you should not be doing that because you don't know what 10 points to, what is present at the memory location 10. Okay. Okay, then let's break for today. It's a good place to stop. Let's not start a new topic. So Thursday's class is going to be fun. We will write a program to sort an array of numbers. Arrays will be introduced. So we will use all the ideas and solve uh, work on a. Can we use a for loop in a for loop? Of course, you can use a for loop in a for loop. No, that's the whole point of programming, that you can put things together.